So the Supreme Court seems to be poised to pull back Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. They're hearing oral arguments today, and based on the questions being asked by the majority conservatives on the Supreme Court right now, the legal experts are analyzing and putting the tea leaves together. Says it looks like they're done with it. Now, this is why it's dangerous. I'm going to give you a quick, briefly rundown on the two cases that have been consolidated into one that's part of these oral arguments today, the flaws of the arguments, what they're trying to do. And then I'm going to talk about the real life implications of why I think they shouldn't rule the way people say they're going to rule, but notwithstanding that, how I think this is going to backfire. So I'm going to go in deeper dive in why I think it's going to backfire in the private communities, but I'm going to give you like the broad overlay of why I think it's going to backfire in this video, because there's some things that you got to keep to ourselves. And so if you're the private community, you can listen to the full deep dive in there. But let's get started really quick. Okay, so it's two cases. So Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1964, I think, essentially acknowledged that during the 60s, the southern states deliberately tried to intimidate and deny the Black U.S. citizens' right to vote. And because they couldn't trust them, they required that they actually carve out specific two districts so they can have a vote, at least one or two, so they can have a vote, majority Black, with the idea being that usually if it's consolidated Black district and a Black person runs, they're going to win. And that way they'll get some voice, because the thinking back then is just white people just would not vote for a Black candidate. But if you have a consolidated, concentrated block of Black residents, they would vote for a Black candidate, and that'll give them a voice. And that Black candidate, when they reach the Congress, they'll look out for their interests that's specific to them, especially given the racial climate of the time. So that's one case. Some non-Blacks, after Louisiana drew up an extra district, one and the next one, so they're going to be denied their racial discriminated against them. Anyway, so that's the one case. The second case is there was a challenge as to whether or not traditionally when there is a problem, nonprofits and civil rights groups are allowed to bring a case on behalf of the community. So there's a second case that would say that rather than nonprofits, it would take away the rights of nonprofit groups of other people and leave it in the hand of the Department of Justice. So we all know if that was in the hand of this Department of Justice, what would happen to that? That would be the end of it. So that's a problem. So those are the two things that have been consolidated into one argument. Now, obviously, even though, despite the fact I'm hearing bits and pieces of the oral arguments, and I acknowledge and I recognize and I accept what the legal experts are saying, but it's interesting. Here's the flaws, not just because what the non-Blacks are arguing in the portion of the case saying that their rights are being discriminated against is like, wait a minute. So you're saying that in this area state where you have a voice, like you have 8 out of the 10 seats, and you not being allowed to have the 9th and 10th seat makes discrimination against you. How to make that make sense? You have a voice. So I guess it's anyway. So. And the other thing regarding I already mentioned it, taking away the rights of nonprofits and civil rights groups to do this is kind of like you allowing an instance when we have the instance now when there's a highly politicized Department of Justice, as with the Trump administration right now, which they're crazy. You now make it impossible for anyone to challenge it when it's clearly obvious that there's efforts to disenfranchise groups. And we've already seen Trump try to steal votes in Georgia, and he's actually was being tried for that. And we've seen him asked the state of Texas and other states to gerrymander to deny people their rights, specifically going after Black neighbors. So you are now, Supreme Court, in an environment being asked, saying we do not need this anymore. And you have an environment where the current administration is actively trying to disenfranchise Black residents in the South. So the timing couldn't be any worse to say that we don't need this anymore. Crazy. We're also in a time frame when in this past weekend that this oral argument, within the past 3 days, this oral argument is being heard, we have young Republicans, which is the next generation of Republicans, caught on group chat saying racist, sexist, anti-Semitic statements, using the N-word multiple times, and talking about the gas chambers, for like being really, really gross. And this is the next generation. So if the argument was like, we're so far advanced that we don't need anymore, this is the youth. And when we say youth, they're age 18 to 40, so they're really not that young. But this is the next generation saying we're ready to continue the racist practices that we've had from our four ancestors. So that's another sign that's not ready. And then you have an administration beyond what he's trying to do in gerrymander. He's rolling back, taking us back to the actively denying grants to deny grants based on anti-DI because they mentioned the fact that the person they're being celebrated is black or live in a black neighborhood. Like, it's active racism. They've had judges, Judge Lamperth and the district court. They've had Judge Williams. They've had judges after judges, Judge Edward Chen, say that the policies are really based on racism. Like, their policies are actively racist. So you have an administration currently that's actively racist. The youth in their party is actively, obviously racist. And then you have his attempt to disenfranchise people. How, pray tell, can you say that we no longer need any laws to protect communities of color, and particularly black communities, when that law was specifically for blacks? The law had nothing to do, didn't say, even though 14th Amendment has been expanded to include and protect other groups, it started off to stop specific type of discrimination, which has not gone away. So we're not there yet when whites can say, oh, we're being discriminated against because it's protected other groups over the years. Let's go back to origins. The origination, what was it meant for, is to protect that group, and that specific group is being attacked right now. So it makes no sense whatsoever the Supreme Court should take that back. But this conservative Supreme Court is just on one because it's let Donald Trump do a lot of bullshit that's cost a lot of lives, that's been destructive, that's caused people to not even be here anymore in terms of taking food off of tarmacs, causing people to lose their jobs, causing people to be deported to countries that are not their own, where they're tortured, and and all of it unlawfully. So they don't care. So I don't have any faith in them in keeping this. And if they do keep it, they'll still dilute it. So I have no faith in them whatsoever. Now, with that saying, I still think this can backfire. So here's how it can backfire royally. It can backfire because, along with all the different ways I believe the Trump administration have overplayed their hand to extinct that they believe they have some sort of mandate to just go through, run a tear, destroy democracy, uproot lives and families, and be essentially brutes, Neanderthal-like, emotionally crazy, the way they've been destroying all sorts of things and eroding their bases. He's gone all in. He's gone ham. It's crazy. He's deeply unpopular. He's underwater, and they're crazy. So for the Supreme Court to do this one more thing, essentially, is kind of like that's going to activate, hopefully, the 90 million people did not vote. We always say 77 million people voted for Donald Trump, allegedly, reportedly. Some people don't believe that. 75 million for Kamala, but 90 million people sat out. And so if the Democrats or just anyone can activate even a fraction of those 90 million, and this could be part of it, the reason why, to say, look how much they're trying to take away your vote. Because no matter what people say in terms of disenfranchisement, there is still a segment of the population in the South that are being disenfranchised, and there are active attempts to roll back early voting, roll back mail-in voting, roll back more polling places, and all the different ways to make it easier to vote, to be registered, like motor voter laws. There's attempts by the Republicans traditionally to disenfranchise them under the guise of voter fraud, which doesn't exist. And examples of voter frauds, usually when they see them, it's usually very, very small, and there's been Republicans. And there's someone right now serving time in jail for voter fraud who's Republican, who's begging Trump to save her. Anyway, so to the extent that that's not really, an issue, it will piss enough people off, or that'd be a nice way, a nice campaign to circle a campaign around that. It's like they're trying to take away your vote, and they're actively removing it, and they're trying to take you back to the other side. The same way Donald Trump was able to build a coalition of people who are low propensity voters, but are more likely to vote for him, is MAGA base in 2016, and he picked some Gen Z boys, people who are just looking for something to believe in. He formed a correlation, folks who don't normally vote, and he got them to vote. So this is how the Democrats could use that case to get more people who normally don't vote to actually vote. And there's one more group of people that this can backfire on, and this whole attempt of Trump's to sort of gerrymander and ask Texas to help them gerrymander 5 districts away from the black community, and the other ones have been saying take away votes so you dilute and remove the possibility for these black candidates. It relies on a certain thinking and a pre-perceived notion and an assumption regarding the white population in the South. So it's not just about getting the people of color who are in the South, who should be voting more. They don't vote as much as they should vote, given I recognize there's disenfranchisement effects, whatever, but still the turnout for some in that group still could be higher considering all that's at stake for them. So this case could be a way to really get them activated and activate that base, but also could be a challenge to people who think they're decent people in the South who do not like the way the country is going. So I'll leave it there. I'll go deeper in my Substack. Also go deeper in my community on Patreon, on TikTok, and on YouTube. So if you're a member, thank you for being a member, and you'll get a little bit more deeper takes there. Like I don't want to insult people. Anyway. All right, so I hope that's helpful. We'll keep our eyes and ears peeled. I'm not, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm not, because we see the writings on the wall. We see what they've been doing. We see who is at the helm, and it'd be foolish to be idealistic to hope that they will do the right thing, because I don't think they'll do the right thing. I don't think they really are caring about what's going on the ground, because there's different types of Supreme Court justice. There's a type, and they've all abandoned, just the way that the Republicans in Congress have abandoned what they said they believed in: states' rights, individual rights and liberties, small government, family values. All those things they've thrown away, because Donald Trump is not a family values person. They're protecting pedos right now. He's blowing up the government. He's intruding in every aspect of people's lives. He's trying to privatize. He's shaking down private entities, trying to intrude and make private entities give portions of their actual business to the government. Look at what he's doing with TikTok, trying to get his son on the TikTok board and demanding private entities give the government a cut. That's not laissez-faire. That's not free market capital. Republicans used to say that's what they believed in. He's blowing up the government size. He's infringing on states' rights sovereignty with this, like, invading states and then trying to make the states cooperate and withholding their funding for various different already allocated projects because they refuse to participate and assist them in their immigration enforcement. That's the anti-states' rights. So every single thing the Republicans say they used to believe in is out the window. Same thing with the Supreme Court. Justice Thomas and Justice Alito used to be, along with the late Scalia, in that ultra right wing of the court that says we are strict constructionists, to the extent that we want to use our only rule in the ways that the framers most likely wanted. The framers did not like the tyranny. They created the United States, came from unchecked power of the king. Coming in, no taxation without representation, coming in, their soldiers used to come in and seize stuff and just give people no rights. All of the Bill of Rights, all of the First Amendments, all of the Constitution came from a foundational government that wanted to escape the tyranny of the king. That's the no kings. And what Donald Trump is doing exactly against what the founders wanted. So yeah, the Supreme Court, Thomas has already said, yeah, I'm done with that now. I'm done being a strict constructionist. I'm not ready to just change the laws for cultural reasons. JJ Legal. You want to teach one? Watch this video. You're watching this on YouTube. Check out my shirts. We're not going back. So you can support me some more and learn some more from me. Let's discuss.